Welcome everyone to Office Hours. I'm so excited to have all of you with us. I'm joined as always by my partner, John Arms. I'm Dave Meyer, and we're super excited to be welcoming Patty Radford Henderson of Annam Planning. How are you, Patty?
I'm doing great, thanks. Glad to
Good.
be here.
And John, I can tell a little bit by your background, but you're living the mobile lifestyle today, right?
Does it show? I did the blur thing. That doesn't hide everything, does it?
Not quite. Not
No,
quite.
I'm in my truck. I am in northern Minnesota in my truck. It's the best place to do this. It's basically a really good sound booth.
Absolutely.
Yep, exactly. So that's where I am in northern Minnesota and living the fractional life.
Spectacular. Well, welcome to Patty, of course. And so, Patty, I know that you've got some stuff that you want to talk to us about around building a all-encompassing omni-channel calendar.
Mhm.
So, and I know that your tool, Optum Planning, can do that for us, but we'd love to hear what you have to say. For folks that are watching live on YouTube or live from the Zoom webinar, of course, you're welcome to add questions at any time. You can do that in the chat feature in the live YouTube, or of course, in the Q&A feature on Zoom. Without further ado, Patty, take
No more ado.
Great, wonderful. So I can just share my screen, right?
Let's do. Yep.
Okay,
Patty,
great.
I can't tell you how happy Dave and I are that you take on this idea of creating a I'm not even saying it right. That you're even doing this. We've all wanted it. We've all thought about something like it. It's like, who's going to do it? Who's going to take one for the team and put this together? Thank God there's a Patty Radford Henderson in this world.
Well, thank you. I mean, I have to say, this is a challenge that I've wrestled with my entire career is, building calendars and spreadsheets and faking out timelines and PowerPoint decks. And it just got to a point where I was so fed up that I then had to figure out a solution. I was in a meeting and there were 5 spreadsheets on the table for one product launch.
Oh my God.
PR agency had one, the ad agency had one, the brand manager had one, and at that point I was running a digital agency. We had 2. And I thought, okay, marketing silos are real and we're here to collaborate. It's the data that's by channel. Yeah, so that kind of led me down this path. Now, the presentation I'm going to share with everyone today is just methodologies that I've honed throughout my career to develop strategic content first omni-channel plans. There's about 9 different facets, and the last one is to have the right calendar, which points us back to Annam and the tool that we've created. But literally the bulk of this presentation is just other methodologies and templates that you can use to build cohesion. So I'm just going to run through that. Let me know if anyone has a question and we can just go from there.
I just want our audience to know before you get going is like, in many ways, I don't know if anybody remembers the movie Mr. Holland's Opus. I think, Patty, this is your opus. You've been working these instruments for so long, and it's finally going to come together in an opus that we can all enjoy. It's so awesome.
Well, that sounds great to me. I like that. Okay, so the first point I want to make is that about what I'm meaning by omni-channel marketing, and I'm really talking about putting the focus on your customer and all the touch points and having everything work together to create a cohesive and compelling experience that's going to guide your leads and prospects through their decision making, through purchase, to become brand advocates for you. And that's omni-channel planning, getting it all to work together, not just we are marketing in a couple different channels, but having all the channels be cohesive. So I love the stat by Omniscend, like how important is it to create a cohesive omni-channel experience? And in their research, they found that marketers earned a 494% higher order rate when they use 3 or more channels in a campaign versus a single channel campaign.
Wow.
Which to me, I'm like, oh my God, let that sink in. You push out an email, you post on social, you got to do more than that. People need to see it multiple times. It needs to be embedded in their brain. They need to, believe that you're credible by seeing proof of you across multiple channels. And that's how you're going to get to a higher order rate. The other thing, that we know is it is extremely challenging to build an omni-channel plan. And the reason is because marketing is so complicated and complex right now. With all the digital channels, with all the social media, you need experts and expertise to truly optimize each channel. So that's why we have got data silos. That's why we've got marketing silos, and CMOs point to those silos as the number one challenge to meeting revenue targets. So let's talk about breaking down those silos, because it truly impacts the top line.
Wonderful.
Okay, so I'm starting out here with a little block and tackling, and that's really just let's get alignment on business objectives. Let's get alignment on target audience. I talked to someone after one of the digital summit presentations I gave recently, and they were saying business objectives. No, we're talking about marketing. And it's like, okay, but alignment on business objectives can really help the team stay focused. I've been in multiple meetings where people will be off talking about different creative concepts. And if we just come back to, wait, we are looking at increasing sales, how does that ladder back to this? So truly grounding everything you do in business objectives, and then who is going to be our best target audience to reach out to? Who are our best customers now? Let's profile them. Let's find more people like that. And then it's establishing your marketing objectives and prioritizing them. This always felt kind of like pulling them out of the sky. What should they be this year? And what I'm going to show you is a model that I've been using for quite a while that I believe helps it become very objective and very easy. So it starts with this model of the customer journey. So at the top, you're going to see that basic sales funnel that we've been talking about for decades, where we've got kind of, awareness, people identifying a need, and they work through the process down to purchase. Now, the bottom half of this hourglass is all about your communication, or the journey of the customer, from them using the product, assessing value, repurchasing, down to advocacy, which is truly the golden ticket. I mean, ideally what you're wanting to do, and what the role of marketing is, ultimately, is to grab the attention at the top, bring people in so they evaluate you, they consider your offering, they become a customer, and then you are truly helping them find value, nurturing their loyalty, and turning them into advocates. So their word of mouth is going to draw more people in, and that's going to be your absolute best marketing, because endorsement is truly the most effective form of marketing. So as we think about marketing objectives, what I'd like to ask you to do is think about each phase and where are your weak links. As you see, I've got some questions in here. Do you need more awareness? Do people just not know about you? Do you need more leads? More people considering you? Do you need more customer retention? Do you need more people raving and writing reviews? And so identifying each of those weak links where you believe marketing needs to work harder in the coming year. And then I want you to prioritize from the bottom up. And this is something that I feel is a little counterintuitive, because everyone seems to talk about where should we run the ad? And that's going to be at the top with awareness. Here's why I want you to go from the bottom up. Because if you've got happy customers, but you don't have any raving fans, you don't have reviews, you don't have testimonials, you don't have case studies, you need to activate them as advocates, get their word of mouth out there, because that's going to be the most compelling content you can have to convince other people to buy. Let's say you've got a lot of customers, but you're losing them. They're not repurchasing from you. You need to figure out what's going on with your product and their expectations for your product. And you need to solve that before you get any more, you spend more money on getting more customers who are going to be dissatisfied. And lastly, let's say you've got a bunch of leads, but they're not converting. Before you work and put effort towards getting more leads, you need to figure out how you can get them to convert. What information do they need in order to feel confident about moving forward with a purchase, and make sure that that conversion engine is fine-tuned before you go spend money on drawing more people into it.
It kind of feels like building the foundation before you build the house, right?
Yes.
Super important. I've been using the bow tie. My model, Patty, is this on the side. I just call it the bow tie funnel, but it's amazing how often like the it's almost like the fail safe is everybody wants to start with awareness. Now you got to have all of these, right? There's no escaping it, but there's just an inherent sort of assumption that our problem is awareness. What's the question?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, if you know, in some cases or many cases, awareness might be the greatest need, because you might not be able to evaluate, especially if you're a new company, you can't evaluate how the customer is doing until you get a customer. So,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but you know,
Bottom up.
I really love the idea of just thinking, looking at the bottom up and where your weak links are, and using that to create that prioritized
For sure.
marketing objectives for the fresh year. So,
Yep.
Okay, so now we want to go from marketing objectives to content plans. And what I've got here is a matrix that we've created where we've got those phases that were listed in the hourglass. We've got the marketing objectives there. You can, you know, number them here from the bottom up again based on your priorities. And then for each phase, we've got a list of what the customer need is, and then the content that appropriately addresses that customer need. So if it is awareness, at that phase, you've got people who are watching trends. They're wanting to see what's fresh, what's new, or they have recently identified a pain point, or they are made aware of an opportunity or a pain point that they've just kind of been putting up with may become more apparent again. So in this case, delivering thought leadership, trends for the future, statistics, you know, benchmarks, or delivering like a truly remarkable solution or experience that is going to get people talking about what you're doing and sharing that information, and then helping others who are in that identifying a need phase. So I'm going to, you know, not spend time going through every single one of these, but that's exactly what this matrix has been built for. And at the end of my talk, I can give you guys a link where you can go and download a copy of it and use it. So you guys
I'll
have
share that with our community, Patty. I'll share that with our whole community. They'd love it. They'd love it.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it truly kind of cuts things to the quick in terms of what content should we be focused on first. And I often like to really say, if you do not have a program for endorsement or reviews or case studies, I always like to start there. And then my second favorite one is more content about your product and your company online. Like anything you can do to make sure you've got enough information online, because for considered purchases, the majority of the decision making is happening before people are even talking to a salesperson. So give them all the information they need to feel comfortable about moving forward.
Absolutely.
Dave often reminds people that plan on about between 50 and 80 clicks before they decide to talk to a human being.
Yeah, they're doing their homework. And especially, and I love that you mentioned considered purchase, because that's really where it's most difficult. And that's where it makes the absolute sense. I mean, people only work with people they trust in considered purchase. You know, it is, if it's a B2C thing, and if you're just buying a pack of gum, you know, whatever, you're not going to ask 17 people or do 80 clicks to see if you should use Trident or not. But if you're going to make a multi-year partnership decision that could cost tens of thousands to millions of dollars and could transform your company, you dang right you're going to do your research. So that's absolutely examples as possible. I love this.
Yeah, this is the way to do it.
Great. And I think when people talk about content, they often think of content marketing, where it's like educational or editorial or thought leadership. But this is truly the full content matrix, where you're talking about product content, corporate content, support content. You know, think of let's lay it all out and figure out where the need is. Okay, so another thing that I tend to bang the drum for is ensuring that when you do invest in creating content, that you get the biggest bang for your buck out of it. So I talk about content programming, and that's exactly it. So I'm going to walk you kind of through how I see you can build content programs, and then things aren't just a one-off. So let's go back to that, you know, building content around endorsement. to fuel your advocates. So this is a diagram of a content program I would recommend to just about anybody. Oh, and let me see if I can go backwards. Back, I'm clicking. Okay, here I am.
There we go.
So it starts with a positive customer experience. You know, if someone unsolicited says, you guys are great, or you've resolved an issue, you're talking to them and you say, wonderful, I would love for you to share your thoughts on, say, Annam with others so they can know what the value is that you found here and they can understand and get a feel for what the experience will be like. So when they agree, then you send them an email that has a request for an endorsement. That email can then do two things. It can go to a Google form that you have already created that helps build a case study. This is what I use, and I think it's brilliant. You're basically asking questions like, what was the situation before you started using this solution? How did you end up deciding to use this solution? What was implementation like? So they are then answering in their own words, and what you're able to do is just lift their answers and pour it right into a case study that you can build on your website. Now you've got that first person explanation of what it's like to work with your customer in a case study on your website. You can easily then take a testimonial quote out of that, turn it into a graphic, use that to merchandise it throughout your site. You can then also push that out to social media to promote that case study, include it in an email to promote the case study, you know, everything kind of linking back. Now that you've got a case study, you could also pitch that as a co-presented talk, potentially at a conference. We're also going to, of course, optimize that case study for organic search. And if it ties into some, you know, high value keywords, we could amplify it. For paid search, we could also amplify those social posts. So down below here, I'm showing how, you know, ideally getting and building a review base on third-party online review sites is also extremely, you know, builds your credibility, helps drive sales. So you can link that person right out to Google reviews or like a G2 and have them write reviews out there. And again, pull from those testimonials they've written and merchandise them. So this is showing you how the idea around, you know, making a case study, getting a testimonial can have an omni-channel content program built around it and kind of a system to ensure that you're really getting the most out of those efforts.
Beautiful.
Okay, I'm going to do, I think I just have two more now. So this is the idea about, you know, just a simple blog post. A lot of people do blogging. So we are going to write our blog post. We will feature it on our homepage so it gets attention. We'll optimize it for organic. We're going to socialize it out through all the social channels we're using. And then we're going to promote it via email. So every time we do a blog post, we are, you know, pushing it out, getting a lot of reach. Now, this concept is around creating a theme of your blog posts and having them build into an infographic or a piece of pillar content. So whether they're stats or they're data bites or tips, you know, you push out each blog post until you've got, you know, following the program that we had mentioned on the previous slide, until you've got your whole series done. Then you take that series, you build it into the infographic, and now you've got a pillar page or a piece of pillar content that you can optimize, amplify via paid, push out via social, and potentially, if it's newsworthy, build a press release about it, send it out to publishers, and hopefully get some play in other channels that way as well.
I love pillar page content, Patty, because it's a hub and spoke thing that makes one piece of content do like 10 things. And the more interrelation and cross-linking that you have on any of these things across all those channels, it gives Google and other indexes more algorithmic data that this is a useful piece of information.
Right. And so this infographic page would then be that pillar page, and you would be able to have links out to all those different blog posts that go into deeper detail about each of those topics. And the pillar page is then kind of the super topic page. So yeah, I've been reading about pillar pages for quite a while. I think they're awesome. And I think Google does too.
Yes.
So, okay. So the last thing is, as you think about creating these programs and you're creating each piece of content or a topic, thinking about, is this something that can live on the website, or is it fleeting? Should we post it in social and it'll be here and gone the next day? Can it build into pillar content? Should we share it out via email or social media? Could it be PR worthy? Should it be amplified? Can it turn into a content program template so that every time we do something like this, we follow the same program? Okay, we have set our marketing objectives. We have a prioritized content plan. We have concepts around content programming. So looking towards mapping things out in, let's say, our 2023 calendar, often people start with a blank page. So I suggest starting with blocking out your seasonal considerations and your high-level initiatives. So that would be like, let's get your holidays and observances on the calendar. Let's put any cultural events, like maybe it's tax season or graduation season, that you plan around, any trade shows you're going to, planning budget cycles, et cetera, et cetera. All those external things that would affect the timing of your marketing initiatives. Then let's think about the internal initiatives that you maybe have on an annual basis, or that are upcoming in the year. So those could be milestones, product releases, annual events, etc. So just getting those kind of core high-level timing parameters in place. The next thing then would be to look at that prioritized content plan, and let's start blocking out when those content initiatives will happen. Again, I'm a kind of a stickler for this. Let's start from the bottom up. So look at putting in programs that foster advocacy, then ensuring customer satisfaction, then driving consideration and conversion, and then boosting awareness and engagement on the top. Sometimes I feel like when I tend to be optimistic, I tend to be a big thinker, so some of these content initiatives can feel a bit overwhelming. So really breaking down into steps like this endorsement program. Number one, let's identify the online review sites where we want to start getting reviews, and let's build out our profiles. That happens the first month. The second month, we identify the customers we're going to ask or do a check-in on to get feedback from them. And if that goes well, we'll ask them to write a review. So just kind of breaking things down into steps. You're doing a little something every month and starting to build out these content programs and initiatives. The other thing I recommend is, now that we've got some seasonal information in the calendar, we've got some high-level initiatives blocked in, let's look at setting a monthly focus for each month. The reason I like this is because we have social teams and other teams that are constantly pushing out content, and they can create posts that align with major initiatives. But outside of that, giving them a monthly theme helps them stay in cohesion with everything else that's going on and helps things feel like it sticks together better. So whether it's like gratitude for the month of November, or love for February, or whatever it could be, maybe it's business loans for a month if you're a bank. Blocking out monthly focuses so the team has other things that they can talk about and share that helps tie everything together. Okay, so now we've got a lot of the base of what we're doing, and we're going to get into kind of that tactical planning. And this is the priority that I always recommend. I say, let's work on your owned channels first. We're talking your website, email, and your social channels. And the reason I want you to do that is because I want you to get your house in order before you invite the people over. So I've been saying that, I think, since 2010.
It makes perfect sense, though.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's your website is your 24/7 brand experience and salesperson. So if something's happening somewhere and people are going to, and they find out about your brand, they're going to go check out your site to find out, are you the real deal? Does this align with what I'm hearing? What else can I know? And if you don't have your website locked and loaded, you are, it's a disservice to your brand. So make sure that your website is fine-tuned before you do anything else. The second thing is going after that earned media, because word of mouth, endorsement by people seen as, influencers or thought leaders or the press truly does build credibility, helps people make the decision to move forward with giving you a try. So really putting your effort on getting that earned media. And then I put paid last, because now that you have the content in place, the messaging, you've got endorsement, taking paid media and amplifying your messages and your content to meet those people and reach out to them that you want to know about you, that's the right time to do it. And then when they come in, they're going to, you're truly going to be able to guide them and nurture them right through that decision-making process, because it's all set up. Okay, so oftentimes I think for companies, this is a lot to keep everybody on the same page and to figure out how am I going to do planning on a regular basis. So I've got a recommendation for a tactical planning cadence. And I have to say the inspiration of this came a bit from the EOS system. I love about, the traction book, the EOS system, is it's a how to hold your meetings, how to structure the meetings, etc. So this is my recommendation for holding your monthly integrated planning meeting. Let's say it's upcoming for October. I recommend holding it mid-month. The reason I say mid-month is because that gives your team time to review the performance of the prior month, pull insights, and have optimization recommendations. So we're going to start with that. We're going to review the previous month. What did we learn? What needs to change? And go from there. Then you're going to have a very early read on the current month. So anything that launched at the beginning of the month, we're 2 weeks in. Any concerns, anything we didn't discuss, everything all good? Great. Then we're going to look at the upcoming month. So this is what we have planned for in-market. Based on what's happening in the previous month, do we need to make any last-minute adjustments, or are we all good? Everybody ready? All locked and loaded? Awesome. Now we're going to look just over a month out. We're going to be approving creative for that month. Then we're going to look 2 months out. We're going to be finalizing the tactical plans. Here are all the different tactics. Here are all the different assets that need to be created. And then we're going to look just over 3 months out and start kicking off tactical planning for that month. We would start by looking at every high-level thing we've already blocked in the calendar, the major initiatives, the content planning that we're doing, any promotions, campaigns, and be able to then give direction to the team to move into that tactical planning. So I see this as like an hour-long meeting, 10 minutes each agenda item. And if you run into trouble, that's when you can schedule a working session based on something specific. But outside of this, then of course, teams would be working on finalizing plans and production and execution, etc. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about here is, of course, bringing it back to what I've just spent the last 2.5 years building, and making sure you've got the right marketing planning calendar. And what I've done here is just given a model for what I see as the marketing process. There's the strategic planning phase where you're going to have discovery and analysis. You're going to map out your marketing strategy, and then you're going to put pen to paper and create your marketing calendar or your marketing plan. This is what's going to happen in order to achieve those marketing objectives and the business objectives. Once we've got approval of that marketing plan, we move into implementation. We're going to go into project management. We're going to assign tasks, subtasks, due dates, assign them to people, get the machinery in place, start doing production, design development, and then at the right time activate. And then out of it is going to come measurement and reporting that then feeds back into discovery and analysis. So often, when people are doing marketing planning, they are building them in spreadsheets because there is so much data that is required for each channel, that each channel needs its own spreadsheet and needs kind of a different view to assess what's happening in that channel. And when you've got your marketing plan spread across a whole bunch of different spreadsheets or created in PowerPoint decks as like designed timelines you've created, it is really hard to get an assessment of what is happening when and holistically look at the customer experience to make sure everything is cohesive and compelling. Sometimes too, then those spreadsheets might get abandoned and people will just plan as they go in the project management tools. And then you're even further removed from the customer experience and from strategy because you're just looking at deadlines and you're just wanting to get things done and keep your channel on. Yep. So I think it's truly important at that marketing planning phase to have a calendar where you can do strategic planning. And this is what I've got in terms of requirements. There's options out there. We believe we've built a really solid one for you, but you want to be able to see everything in a unified calendar so you can see all the content that is going out in market, all the campaigns side by side to make sure you are optimized. You want to be able to see multi-month timelines so you can see the big picture across a quarter or a year. You want to be able to look at a month view for day to day, a day view so you can sequence by time of day. You want to be able to filter so you can say, okay, here's this campaign that's running. Let's click on it. And now everything else drops out of the calendar. Here's everything associated with that campaign. Do we have the right coverage? You also would want to be able to turn on holidays, customer insights on and off so you can find out, okay, boy, we really shouldn't launch on this day because it's right around a holiday and we know people are not going to be in the office and we have a business market we're going to and they're not going to be on their computers. So being able to have that insight in terms of timing. And then lastly, being able to apply edit rights by channel. So everyone's in their swim lanes. We've got social, who can edit in social, emails, only working in email, but everybody is on the same page, can see what everyone else is doing. Okay, so this is how I typically wrap this presentation. This is my QR code, and that is the URL for accessing that content planning matrix that I showed. Here is a screen capture of the flow or timeline view of Annum. If you go to annumplanning.com, that's where you can sign up for a free trial or a demo, and you will get me, and I would love to walk you through it. So
that's wonderful.
This is super cool. And what I love about the planning and you know, way too many businesses, and I work with at BusyWeb, we work with, you know, 4 dozen clients that we're doing this kind of work for. And there's so many of those folks that are just kind of like, well, let's just try something, and kind of scattering things around, and yeah, you're just kind of setting it up and you're not having any real thought or consideration on where in the buyer's journey that people are, or what levels you're trying to engage people at. And you're just kind of going with, you know, what we all kind of think of when we knee-jerk think about marketing. It's like, oh yeah, you're just gonna put out a Google ad, or, you know, let's do
oh my God, Dave,
that's not nearly enough, right? So
you hit it so on the head. You hear that term that it just makes me cringe. Let's throw something against the wall and see what sticks.
Right?
I mean, honest to God, I'm going to start having seizures and conniptions.
Right.
The more I hear that, it's just like, that is not the way to do it.
Well, and
but Patty's brought us a way to do it.
Yeah. Would you hang out with the chef that they came up and said, well, here's what we're going to have today, and then they throw it up against the wall? It's like, no, you want something that, you know, I need an appetizer and I need some snacks to really johnify that. Need some snack size content, and then I need some veggies and some milk and some alcohol if we're having a really good night, and all kinds of stuff, right? So that's what this omni-channel, this is your balanced diet of media that's built around talking to each other and building more trust with the people that matter most. I want to step aside a second and let our attendees talk. So I'm going to nominate everybody up or boost everybody up. You don't need to talk, but if you have content or, you know, ideas or thoughts about what Patty's been talking about, would love to hear it from all of you. So again, no need to talk if you don't want to, but I am going to allow all of our attendees to talk now. So if you have Hey, especially, I would love to hear while we're boosting people up, what brand new companies, what startups can do in this, because it's tough to build trust at the advocacy
I
level
had the same
when you're
question.
getting
I had the
started.
same
Yeah.
question. Yeah, I'd like to hear you talk about that, Patty.
In terms of startups, I'll tell you exactly what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I've got a MarTech SaaS company. So I built into my software agreement that once I earn your endorsement, that you would be, to the customers, that you would commit to participating in a case study with me. And that I would be able to use your logo on my website, your testimonials for marketing purposes. And out of all my customers, I had one that just say, legally, we have been, we do not do this. We can't do this with any vendors. But all the rest of them said, yes, once you earn my endorsement, I would be happy to participate in it. And then I used that Google form, and it's been great. So I was able to get, case studies up immediately as a new company, because I just addressed it right up front with my customers, who also, I have to say, were people that were, super supportive and rooting for me, which feels really
Well,
great.
we're definitely rooting for you too. The part of that question, Patty, I'd like to have you unpack a little bit is, I think everybody, this is not just a marketing tool, obviously. It's sales, it's marketing, it's product. There's so much more to it, right? But everybody has been dying for the single source of truth. Do you think that I go right to your calendar there, and I know there's strategy up front, the bow tie funnel, you have to do that work, but now that you've been executing it, has that become the single source of truth for the people who are utilizing the Anim tools?
Yeah, absolutely. That's
God bless it. Thank God.
That's exactly what they call it. And I'm like, our goal is to get rid of all the spreadsheets. And, and people say that unfortunately someone was working off the wrong source of truth, because there's spreadsheets and they're not updated. And that's when mistakes happen. And there's no room for that anymore. And there shouldn't be. Marketers should be working with the right tool for the job versus an accounting tool that's being kind of jerry-rigged into a calendar. Strategic planning. So it truly is. And we recently added the feature where you can upload kind of foundational documents. So your brand strategy deck, your personas, your style guide. So that way, when you've got a new employee coming on board, they can look into Anim. There's your marketing plan of record from what's been done for the past year. Here are core foundational documents, and they can step right in and see what's happening. One of my customers, a new job at a bank, she's like, I had no idea what had been done previous to me, and I had to start from scratch. There was no marketing plan of record. It was a bunch of data and project management tools, which meant nothing to her because it's a bunch of tasks and due dates. So it truly is a way of saving that knowledge, retaining that knowledge, and knowledge transfer, as well as being able to look back and like, well, what did we do 2 months ago? Because look at the performance, look what happened.
Oh my God, Patty, I've got a client right now that is, I feel bad for him because we're doing the things that you outlined, right? We're bow tie funneling it. We're doing these things. And because it's a new initiative, one of the questions is, who set up the LinkedIn page? And nobody knows. And I keep that in a repository, but again, what kind of truth needs to be in here? What are we doing? Where are the assets and that sort of thing? But Patty, could you talk while we're waiting for questions to come in, could you talk for a minute about, I think on the outside, you can look at this and say, boy, it looks like a lot of people and a lot of activity and a lot of participants, but I also sense that a pretty small business could utilize this tool. Could you talk, have you found this to be as useful for a $2 million company as a 20, as a 200? Give us some insight on that.
Yeah. We work with Drake Bank. They have one location and they have I think it's a one person. I'm saying I think because I don't know if she actually has anyone above her. So it's pretty much a one person marketing.
Okay. Nice.
She's running I think it's 17 channels. So she's got the digital sign in the lobby, the message on the statements, the message on the ATM machine, the CEO's social media posts, the emails she sends out, all the social channels, changes on the website. And she told me, she's like, I had a family emergency. I was out. I was able to quickly click into Anim and take a half an hour to make sure everything was on track. And then, and so I didn't drop a ball. And she's like, gave me such peace of mind. And I'm like, there's no way she could have all these plates spinning if she
No
didn't
way.
have this tool.
There's absolutely no way. The whole thing would stop. There is no way it could possibly sustain. And that's, of the many things that are brilliant about the Anim tool, that is definitely one. And I'm glad to hear that, because I know that the small business sector, they really struggle, right? Like, I cannot use the big tools. I need a tool that fits me. So,
right. I know we've got a couple of folks that are attendees that are off mute and that are probably just waiting for a chance to ask their questions. So yeah, here's your chance. What would you like to ask Patty about Omnichannel?
Well, this is Brian. I would just say that what I really liked about this is that, the comprehensive nature of the tool. So, I mean, everything's kind of baked into it. So more of a comment than a question, but it's really, I think, very well thought out, comprehensive tool. And to me, that's the kind of thing that is missing, or, people do pieces of, right? But it's not all there. So that's really great. And then, in terms of, like, you're talking about collecting positive customer experiences for testimonials. And that's something that I'm in the feedback realm as one of my things, PR and comms, and also feedback and research. And I really, the value of that feedback and using that in a strategic way is something that is obviously really important, whether you're pulling that from, I'm getting into video testimonials now. That's another place I think there's a lot of growth, as well as video research. So collecting feedback that way, but also traditional surveys, social feedback, all the other good places we can get it. But I liked your piece on that as well.
Great, thank you.
excellent. Thank you, Brian. And Patty, if you don't know Brian, he's our resident. Brian, I'm just going to say it. He's our resident tech nerd. But I say that with so much love and admiration, because he understands tech and he understands tools, and he spends way more time than anybody I know with things like Anim and other things like it. And I think his endorsement is super helpful, even though you haven't used it yet, Brian.
Great. So I see Craig has his hand up.
Oh yeah, thanks, Patty. Yeah, so I loved the sort of sample agenda that you put up for a content planning meeting, and that I had light bulbs go off to see you combine a performance review of the past with the planning of the future. So kudos there. And then something struck me as also really interesting, is because the timing of that sometimes gets really funky, and yours was conveniently right in the middle of the month. So I would love to know, and I know this is going to be case by case, but are there times when you would be looking for a different performance indicator of the kind of, what did you call it, the early look, like just the recent content versus what happened, last month, which was at least 15 days ago? Like, are those usually the same KPIs in your experience, or is there sometimes when you want something ultimately to happen and you're looking for that in last month's report, but you're sort of sniffing for something that's slightly, a leading indicator of that when you're looking at the quick read?
Yeah, I would say you said it perfectly, that it is the performance of the prior month are the KPIs you've identified. And then the quick read would just be like, okay, social team, okay, the person that sent the email out, just the people that get kind of that direct response, for them just to give it off of, anecdotal.
Oh, I see. So are you saying like the prior month might be actually a more like
dashboard
business level report? It's not just about the content. It's more about how did we do as a marketing organization overall?
Yeah.
And then quick read is just, okay, the stuff we just put out there, what are we seeing? I really like that. That's a great
kind of like anecdotal. So people wouldn't need to take the time to generate a report, is the way that I look at it. How do you guys think it's going so far? Just that easy of a question.
Mm-hmm.
No. The other thing I would look at is then you've got, deeper planning sessions quarterly, or maybe it's just annually, where you're going to look at broader set of performance analytics. and, any research you might be adding in or stuff like that. But this would be more just like, let's just get a cadence to get everybody on the same page once a month. For bigger teams, when you've got channel people kind of, siloed by channel, you want to get together. So
that cadence is everything. Cadence is everything.
Mhm.
Are there more questions? I'm on my little phone here, Dave, so I can't see questions. Can you see them?
No problem. I'm following them, and YouTube. We've had folks on and off, but we haven't had any folks that have been brave enough to ask questions via the chat over there. So that's fine. But yeah, I think for everyone, especially if you're here and can ask live, go ahead. Feel free to raise your hand if we're not letting you talk in, because this is something that I geek out about a lot. And the whole idea of working smarter and not harder, and thinking visually about how all this stuff works together, is really a great way to handle a problem that I think most communicators have, in that content is kind of a squirrely thing to nail down, especially as you look at channel, because there's so many different things, and it all kind of floats out in space once it's submitted. I mean, you make a Facebook post and it's kind of gone, especially if you're not looking at results and measuring, right? So this kind of reminds you not only that maybe you have some holes in your strategy, but it reminds you to keep looking and measuring for those things. So that's my long-winded way to ask, are there good measurement tools that you would recommend in kind of concert with the Anim planning tool, or with just omni-channel as a whole, to make sure that you're not missing any of this stuff, or to be able to prove ROI?
Well, that's a good question. And, the analytics is siloed, because you in a lot of instances. And, I've been thinking about that last touch attribution that people wrestle with. So I tend to think of it two ways. One, at a very high level, what are those high level KPIs? Like, are we meeting, if we're B2B, are we getting enough leads? Are we getting enough conversions?
Yep.
If it's e-com, like, are we hitting the sales goals? And then, you're going to have to dig in per channel, and like, do we feel the channel is optimized? I tend, just from running my own company, I know that people are, I send them an email, they see something about me on LinkedIn, they see something over here, and now they're wanting a demo. So I know I know that it's the combination of all those, and I know I need to keep doing all of them, and so I don't get so focused on last point of contact, but knowing you got to have the last point and all the last points, all the channels.
Right.
So I don't know. I hope that somewhat answered your question.
It does, and kind of to over nerd it for a second, maybe just adding UTMs to most of the links that you're running could be a way to keep it all set up and have that all go back through analytics or something, Google Analytics or whatever, right? Might be a way to at least kind of keep a score. But certainly if you have your omni-channel calendar and you notice that you're not getting any interaction at all on one of those channels, that's definitely something to look at and to say, oh, well, we're not seeing anything there.
Yeah.
Anecdotally or otherwise.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm wondering where people are in their 2023 planning and what tools they're using for that.
That's a good question. I've got an answer, but I'm gonna let the crowd go for a minute.
Yeah, I'm trying to bite my tongue for once. So
yeah, I struggle with that, Dave, as you know. It's almost impossible.
Where are we in next week's planning? Because we're almost done with that. To answer your question.
Next week's planning. Yeah. How about 20?
Sadly, we are painfully
that's a question where often
real time but close.
Yeah, especially these days, right? Everybody's had to work so hard on HR that planning has not had the attention, I don't think, that it wants and needs, because there's so many things that are right at the jugular, which on the one hand you say, well, that's not good, but it's one of the realities. that people are facing out there. Again, Patty, I think when I in about an hour when I start my Anim subscription or whatever I have to do, I think one of the best ways is start with the source of truth and build out your plan from there. You can bring the strategy in and you need to, and good business people, marketing and sales people can do that. But you ask a good question. Where is it, right? Where is it all anchored to? Well, it's somewhere in Monday. It's somewhere in HubSpot. It's somewhere in, whatever those sort of software tools people are using, it's probably somewhere in there. And, but boy, to have it in a single source of truth, it just seems to me that is a way to get your planning moving in a fresh new way.
Mhm.
That's what I intend to do.
And to layer on top of that, I think to ask the question highlights the need. I think everybody on the call kind of gave a little bit of a blank stare. It's like, I don't know. I think Craig said it best. He's like, you know what? We're just kicking content out past what we can throw. So, to take a note and to think, okay, well, strategically, where do we need to head? And I think your tool, the Anim tool, already brings in seasonality and other tools in there, some ideas and some hooks to build onto. That's probably just like writer's block, it's planner's block, right? So if we don't have enough, getting something is certainly better than nothing. And that's a big part of what I do with all of my clients is we have quarterly meetings where we build up the plan for the next quarter. But towards the end of every year and in the last quarter of every year, we really do look at, okay, well, let's talk about 2023 and what do we want? So we're gonna, we're just not quite there yet.
I think there's a cultural thing that has to come with that. I think that, and I'd love your thoughts on this, Patty, is there, as I think everybody knows, tactics can take up a lot of energy and oxygen. If you're talking about, for example, some content or the website, I often think we're talking too much and too long about that. We're leaving strategy and planning behind because we're going a mile deep into, page 4 of the website. And whether we're talking about SEO or content, and I often counsel my clients, we have to stop going a mile deep on tactics. We always have to come back to strategy, but we have to see them together. And I think that's one of the brilliant things about Anim is you can have that, you have to see them in context because you lose context so quick, right? The minute poor Dave, you're working on 18 different things in an omni-channel, and boy, you lose context fast. And what I'm looking forward to with Anim is I'm not going to lose context.
Yeah, one of the things that ties back to the presentation I gave is that you can set up your marketing objectives in Anim as tags. You can also set up your target audience segments and your journey phases as tags. So as you enter a tactic, you can say this tactic aligns with this marketing objective, this journey phase, this target audience. So then when I'm on calendar, I can go into filters, hit that marketing objective. Okay, and now I can visually see what are we doing that's building awareness this month? What am I doing that is, driving advocacy this month? And you can say, okay, if that is my number one priority, and I look at my calendar and there's 2 things happening in the month, it's like we're not aligned. Tactics are not aligned with strategy. And otherwise, there's no way for you to assess that when you're working in a project, in a spreadsheet or a project management tool. It's truly allowing you to make the strategic decisions because you have the visibility that you need to customize things and see what's going on. Yeah. Brilliant.
So because we're coming to the top of the hour, and I wish I could turn this into 2 hours because I got 8,000 more questions, but let's do a little bit of business about this, Patty. Talk a little bit about how, people can find it. If you want to talk about what it costs or how you get it, kind of let's do some things that help people understand how to get into it and utilize it to their benefit.
Absolutely. So the product's Anim, the website's animplanning.com. If you go there, you can sign up for a free 2-week trial where you go through a self-serve onboarding tool. You jump right in and can start using it. You also can sign up for a demo. And if you sign up for a demo, you're getting on my calendar. I'm going to walk you through it. I'll show you how it works. And then I can do concierge onboarding where I get you set up. I can, do a training session with your team, whatever makes sense. For Small to mid-sized businesses, it's $99 a month for teams up to 20. So
Beautiful.
I would prefer that people get everybody in, not share seats, not debate. Should we add the PR consultant that's
Smart.
helping us? It's going to have its value when everyone's in. We also created a enterprise connected calendar system for larger companies where you can create a lead calendar with that's like a parent calendar and then have nested child calendars under it. That requires a custom quote depending on number of seats and how many calendars you're going to do. But the idea being, let's say you're a franchise organization, you can do your national advertising, your templates for seasonal promotions, and then each franchisee can have their own nested calendar under it. They can see everything that's happening at corporate, apply the programming in that they want to based on what corporate's recommending, and then put all their local activations in. So then corporate can see everything that's happening side by side from all the nested. I'm only going to see what I'm doing and can turn on and off the lead calendar, but not have to view the other nested ones. So, we've got a number of customers using that for different reasons, but I haven't been able to find anything like that in the industry as of yet. So, but it's
very nice
to allow you to get a large organization and be able to get strategic views of what's happening, different business units.
This is
on behalf of hundreds of fractional pros and 30 million small businesses, thank you for your pricing model.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. And I feel like there has to be, if you're not doing planning, Anim's not going to get you to do planning. So
right. Yeah.
It's got to be people that
I think it gets you thinking about it, right? It's probably the things like, oh, okay, I got it. I guess I better get smarter about my planning because I better be doing what's on here.
It'll help you plan smarter. But if you're like a Post-it note, like maybe I'll do this on LinkedIn tomorrow, or maybe I'll send this email next week. If you're a Post-it note marketer, you don't need to invest in Anim. But if you are wanting to create cohesive marketing across, all your channels, then it is I think it's a very valuable investment to make.
Oh, huge. Love it.
I want to do a quick call out. We've got the last of our weekly shows is coming up next week with Frank Costabillo. And Frank is I wish I had his energy. He is a all things reputation marketer and communicator that I've had the pleasure to meet and to work with. And he's got some really interesting ideas about not being afraid to really grind and to do the hard work in order to get reputation under control. So we're going to be talking with Frank next week. And then a couple weeks after that, on the 14th, we've got Marianne Lombardi talking about steps for sustainable growth in 2023. And then Pete Steege, our old friend, is coming back with branding strategies. He actually has a new book out, and he's going to be talking about what he learned in creating that book. We're opening up a little bit after that. So if you know someone who should come on in and talk on office hours, we're switching our cadence to every other week after the end of this month. So we're getting a little bit slower. And John and I think we realized we're at number 50, I think, on this show. And it's been a fantastic, and I would do it all the time anyway. But it's we need to keep up with what our attendees can muster. And I think every Friday was a little rough for folks. So
it was hard, which actually is okay. So slowing down and going every other for us is helpful.
It's all about learning and about moving forward. Patty, thank you for the time.
The best.
Okay if I share your email address quick?
Please do.
Okay, perfect. So reach out to Patty at animplanning.com. And of course, go to animplanning.com to learn more about the Anim tool.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to join you on office hours. Super fun, Dave and John. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.